to episode 13 of the Midlife Reset Podcast. I'm Cheryl Gordon, and I educate midlife women on sleeping better, feeling stronger, and losing weight using the tools of yoga and mindfulness. We release a new episode of this podcast every week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. And, share with your friends. We're really committed to supporting midlife women to rock the most exciting phase of their lives. So let's share with our girlfriends. Now, one of the biggest bonuses I've enjoyed since starting this podcast, not even a full 2 months ago, is the chance to talk with other amazing women. So here's the story. I reached out to today's guest because I thought our community of midlife women might be interested in a conversation about osteopathy. And if you ever doubt that the universe has your back, girlfriend, this is something you want to catch for sure. Once we started to get to know each other, today's guest and myself, I discovered a true kindred spirit, and we quickly left the dry medical descriptions of soft tissue work and stuff, and we dove into these great explorations of spirituality and intuition and living our most authentic lives. And it was definitely a guiding force that led me to this fascinating woman that you're about to meet. And we are all going to be vibrating a little more intensely after sharing in her love and wisdom. So I'd like to welcome Shira Pinson to our show. She is an osteopath, a mom of 3, and a fascinating woman. And we have so much to talk about, Shira, but let's start with your day job. Could you please fill us in on what an osteopath is?
First of all, Cheryl, thank you so much. That was such a kind and warm introduction. And I'm just so honored that you reached out to me and to be here. So thank you so much. I mean, one of my biggest passions, I have a bunch of passions, but one of them is definitely osteopathy. And the way I look at osteopathy is like a human mechanic. So you have a body, you have a car. All of a sudden the car light goes on, or it's making this funny noise, or you have a body and all of a sudden you have an ache here and a pain there. So you take your car into the shop, or you take your body to your osteopath. And the point of the car mechanic is to say, okay, I know you have this light here, but the problem is not with the light bulb, right? I am a whiz at cars. I'm going to open up the front, open up the back, look at the tires, look at the thises, look at the that's, and figure out where is the problem really coming from. Oh, and by the way, you know that sound you hear sometimes when you make a left turn and how that light, the flickers, and all the things, those are actually related. So in the same way, our bodies are related, and you come in and you say, hey, it hurts here. And people often say, can you, right here, why are you going here? And my job is to look at the body as a whole and say, what is really going on with this body? What are all the connections? How is everything linked? And how can we gently unwind the body in a way that's respectful to the body and is gentle and comfortable to the patient on the table for the purpose of proper alignment. And when there's proper alignment, it's not just like the muscles that feel better. If we actually get better blood flow, the nerves work better, even the organs and lymphatics work better. So it's this beautiful, amazing picture. And that's a bit about osteopathy.
Well, I love how you really emphasized how it's the interconnectedness of all the different parts of the body. And we were talking about breathing and how breathing changes when you move your body in different positions.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really cool thing. Just a quick demo for all those people out there. So I want you to just bend to the left and twist to the right and take a nice deep breath. And
not much room.
Just feel how awful that feels.
Yeah, not much room in there.
So don't do that. So come on back, take a deep breath, relax your body. But you can see how your posture affects like a very obvious thing, like your breathing. And obviously we're not walking around totally, like this. But we do have those twists and turns, and they do affect the rib cage. They affect the spine. They affect how the ribs can move, how the intercostal muscles, which are the muscles between your ribs, can have the tension. And it can affect you. It can even affect things like you can get migraines, you can get brain fog just from a lack of proper breathing. And I'm sure that's something that you deal with also, allowing people to
Bingo. Yes.
take those deep breaths and stretch them on their own. And in the same way that it is with the rib cage and the breathing, you can actually see the same in the digestive system. When we have a pelvis that's twisted, or when we have a rib that is affecting the part of the nervous system that affects the digestive system. When these things are not properly aligned, we can get digestive issues, we can get menstrual issues, or on the other side, we can get menopausal issues, hot flashes and sweats and all of these things that we wish would leave us. um,
And because we talk to midlife women a lot on this podcast, the alignment of the pelvis and the organs and how the circulation's moving through all that has a big effect on hormones, doesn't it?
Absolutely, especially since hormones, they float in the blood, right? And if blood flow isn't proper, if we're impinging blood flow, or we're making the body have to work harder to get the blood where it needs to go, it can definitely affect the body hormonally.
Yeah. And so osteopaths, what do they do for people? Like what does a treatment look like?
Yeah. So an initial treatment with me would be someone would come in, we'd take a quick health history, trying to figure out what are the main things that are bothering you and what's gone on in your life that may be causing it. And then my job is to take a look in all positions to see what is moving and what's not moving. What that looks like, it looks like gentle stretching. I'll have you gently push against me. I'll gently push against you. It doesn't, my patients will sometimes get off the table and they'll say, "That's it, we're done." And then I'll say, "Just wait." And then I get a phone call a few minutes later, or, the next time they come in, they say, like, "Wow, did I feel that? How did I feel that from what you did?" How is that even possible?
Yeah.
Um, so that's what it looks like, just gentle stretching, gentle motion. What it is so much deeper. It's really figuring out where the body needs to move and where the body hasn't been moving and approaching that tissue in a respectful way. People come in with all sorts of issues. I'm sure you get a lot of similar, people. A lot of people are coming in with, "Oh, I have this neck hump," or people who feel like their bodies are all folded and kyphosis. Um, some people come in for more like physiologic issues like constipation or diarrhea, IBS, migraines. Well, everyone has a different issue. I have my favorite patients are the ones that say, you know, everything's basically fine. I just want to make sure that, I'm moving properly, which is incredible because thank you for taking care of your body.
Well, if we go back to your mechanics analogy, I mean, we go in for tune-ups all the time for our car, oil changes, that sort of thing. So you can help patients retain their mobility with regular checkups.
That's exactly it. And when you're going for regular checkups, you don't have those big extreme swings, right? When people come in and they say, "Hey, I've been in pain," like the progression I usually get is that people say, "Oh, I had this back pain," for example, and it used to come and go. And then it would come for like 2 weeks, but then it would go. And then like the last time it came, it hasn't gone. And it's been, a month, 2 months, or it's been a year, 2 years, or it's been 10 years or 20 years. And when you're now going in 20 years later, okay, that's fine. I'm glad you're here. We're going to work things out. We're going to make things the best they can be. And I wish that we didn't let it get there because it could have been a tune-up. It could have been a few quick treatments. And now we're having to put a little more effort into the body, which is so worth it still. But,
Mhm.
I wish we didn't have to get there.
And when you have somebody who's had that little warning signal in their system for such a long period of time, that comes with actual neurological changes, which affects your alignment and your movement. So you're unwinding deeper and deeper patterns the longer that little danger signal's been there.
Exactly. And our body likes to be in the position that it's in, right? So
Familiar. Yeah.
sometimes, what was that?
It's familiar, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
familiar. Sometimes you have to there's a process of unlearning it when it's been that way for so long, reminding you, "Oh, you have mobility to stand straight,"
Yeah.
right? When before it was they were stuck in that way. Now we have to remind the body, "Hey, look, now we can do it on our own." But when you go in and you erase those issues right at the beginning, you don't have that same uphill battle.
Yeah.
And I
And
just
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I
Sure.
just like to say when I first started, I had this like very powerful vision. Um, that for my business and for my practice, I saw my own grandparents aging, and then I saw my parents aging, and it really hit me like, wow, they're aging like my grandparents. And I have this dream that every grandparent and every grandparent can get on the floor with their grandkids. Like, you wait so long for those opportunities if you're blessed to have them, to be able to get down on the floor, to be able to play with them, and then to be able to get back up, not be afraid, am I going to get stuck? Even to get back up without the sound effects, like, to be able to just go down and get up, like, with a functional body. So that's my dream.
Oh, that's wonderful. And as a grandma, I'm like, thank you. Because you really do, that's a great why to take care of yourself. And a shout out to all midlife women. We give so much to others and we rarely ask for a lot back, but it is really important to take care of yourself and go for these regular tune-ups and do your body work, because your why is so you can really be there for your family in the long run, and be able to really take that joy from the family,
Yeah.
right?
There's something that I find really notable about that. I think sometimes we're afraid to be takers, and especially your generation, you guys are a generation of givers, and you guys have really given a lot, and it's beautiful. And I think sometimes self-care has this like tone of, well, like it's just taking, I'm just caring for myself, and I don't want to be all about me. That's not my type. I'm not, maybe you knew a woman like that, that it was like offensive to you or disgusting to you. And I just want to reframe that as we're not giving to, we're not taking to have, we're taking to give, right? We're caring for ourselves so that, and I think when our taking is in balance like that, it actually feels amazing.
Yeah. When we keep in mind it's so we can ultimately be of more service. Let's double back to this. I just want to finish a little bit more about our discussion on osteopathy. Can you
Absolutely.
share with us maybe some case studies, Shira, of some of your clients and how they have benefited from osteopathy?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I have a few patients that stick out in my mind. Um, One of them, this was the one that I think hit me the most emotionally. I had a patient, she'd been coming for a few months already. And in that time, not only did her body change like crazy, like she went from being in excruciating pain and I could barely put my hands on her without her saying, ouch, 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 ouch. And osteopathy is a very gentle practice. So when I have a patient that's saying, ouch, ouch, I know this is a body that's really crying for help. To a point where she was coming in and saying, yeah, sure, do your magic. I'm feeling pretty good. Usually I kick these patients out, but I couldn't kick her out. and and I said to her, like, a lot has changed in the past, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. And she said, Shira, I've been doing this work in therapy for years. I've been really working on myself and trying to get all these different things in motion. And I was trying my best, but it wasn't really going anywhere. And when I started working with you, all the things I was working on in therapy, it started being so much easier to do it. One of the examples she gave me is that, she likes to cook and she would want to cook for herself and cook for her mother. Givers, us women, givers, cooking for her mother. Um, and because she wants to really be able to provide that nutritious food, but she couldn't stand on her feet for that long. And now that her body is functioning so much better, she says, like, Shira, I can stand and I can cook for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours. Whatever I need to do, I can just do it. I want to exercise because it doesn't hurt me to exercise anymore. So to me, that was
Wow.
like a wow, like, look how amazing it is to have a functional body and what it can do to the rest of your life. So that was one patient.
Can we just talk about that for just a second
Abs-
more? I'm kind of
yeah,
going a bit off script, I know, Shira, but I just love that story because it just shows that nothing like, I mean, I've been to therapy. I think, therapy is a really important part of our healthcare, but how you have to have that somatic component to it because as one of my teachers says, the issues are in the tissues. And when you work with the soft tissue and osteopathy, you're actually starting to move some of that stuck emotion. We often say emotions are energy in motion. So we've got
yeah.
that locked energy in our tissues, and the osteopath comes and starts to help us release, and then the therapy just clicks in so much more, you know,
Absolutely.
intensively.
And I think sometimes in therapy, you're like, you feel like you're pushing, it's an uphill battle, right?
Mm.
Like you have to, like, it's all in here and I'm trying to do the right thing and make the right step. And I think when you just release the body, when the body is not in a state of fight or flight, and that's a really beautiful thing that happens on the table, to really feel bodies release tension and really relax. People get up and I can't carry a conversation with them after because they're in this like post-treatment relaxation.
They're
And I
stoned.
a little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Physically induced. It's amazing to see, and then to have where like that's the effect. It's really incredible.
Yeah. And
Another
you
just
were telling me about that one patient who was really struggling to breathe, and
yeah
they'd had some surgery. Because I think a
yeah
lot of people can relate to this. When you have
yeah.
surgery, there's a lot more than just the scar to heal, isn't there?
Absolutely. And I think one of the frustrating parts about surgery also is that, sometimes it officially works, but it doesn't do what we wanted it to do. We didn't realize that when you go in, there will be all these other effects like the scar tissues and sometimes, I had two C-sections. And when I had my first, I was still in school. When I had my second, I was also still in school. But when I had my first, I was in first year of osteopathy, and I remember just being devastated. Like I'm caught tissue. I have scar tissue. And I remember one of my professors said, "Yeah, you would have died otherwise." And it was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Like sometimes you just got to do it." And
Yeah.
if you can't move and you need that knee replacement, you need that knee replacement.
Yeah.
But with that said, that tissue still around it needs to adjust, and when that scar tissue will affect the rest of the body. It's just a reality, and it's okay. We can cope with that reality. So that patient you were talking about had quite a bit of surgery and quite a huge scar, and it was definitely a necessary surgery. And it's just the reality. These are the bodies we live with. And it was amazing by just focusing on releasing that abdominal scar tissue. That patient was able to get a full deep breath, and it's just like it's so cool to feel it. To put my hands on the rib cage and to feel those ribs going in and out. And it's a more complicated. Each person is a more complicated picture. They're not just a piece of scar tissue, right? There's a spine that's been doing what it's been doing for years. There's the rib cage that's been doing what it's been doing for years. There's a whole body that's attached to it. But it was so cool to have that change just under my hands. And then just one more case, if you'll
Yeah,
allow.
for sure.
Oh man, two more cases. Okay, whatever. One of them is a quick one. I had a patient. This is actually, I was still in school and I treated, she was a friend of mine. And she comes in, and for all of you who can't see in the video, I'll describe it as I'm doing it. She came in and she said, "Oh, my right arm, it's killing me." And she lifts her arm to about 4 to 5 degrees painfully. And then she goes, "And this is what I can do." She takes her left arm, she grabs her right arm, and she shoves it up. And she goes, "That's as much as I can do." And I'm thinking, if you have to use one arm to shove the other arm up, you can't do any of that. Like, stop it. Don't do that. And it was amazing. So she said she had already been to the best physio in Toronto, and he told her it was in her head
Oh no.
because officially everything was fine. And I treated her, and it was incredible. After that first treatment, she had full mobility of that shoulder. This is sometimes there's miracles. The miracles are not me. Okay, just so we're fully
Oh,
clear. Sometimes there's miracles, and the miracles are not me. Osteopathy is so cool, and my greatest gift is to just be a messenger when I can be that messenger.
yeah.
But she had full range of motion with some pain, and the next morning she had no pain, and
That's
it stayed.
amazing.
It's been 8 years. She's had a
Wow.
few tune-ups here and there, but otherwise it's been incredible. So that was one. And then the one more patient who I also think went to the same physio who also told her it was in her head. I could be wrong with that though. But she was having, um, she did not have any feeling in one of her feet. And it started creeping up. And it even got to the point where her foot was sliding off the gas pedal. Now, this is a younger woman. I'm not talking about someone who's in her insert very older age here. I don't want to say an age because this is a woman in her late 30s.
Yeah.
And that is devastating.
Oh,
That is devastating. And she had done everything. She had done physio and she'd done everything. And it was incredible working on her and seeing as she slowly started getting feeling back in her foot, getting more control over her foot. She's a busy woman, so it's not always easy to catch her and, or for her to focus on that piece. But it was absolutely incredible to see it change. And I've had a few patients to say that said, "Oh, are your floors heated? And I'll say, yeah. And they say, I didn't have a feeling in my feet before. I never noticed it before. So, and yeah, those are my patients. I have the best patients.
Well, obviously, you really love what you do, Shira. I want to jump to something else that you really love. You have
Yeah,
3 kids. How
I
old are
do.
they?
So I have my oldest is 7. I have a boy that's 7, and I have boy girl twins that are 4.5.
You are busy, so thank you so much for taking this time today. I just wanted to ask you about being a mom and the work that you do. When you went through having the kids, how did that change for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I had my kids in school, so I wouldn't say so much has changed, but I would say that those two processes happened together. Osteopathy, like really percolating in my mind, and parenthood. Um, so the way osteopathy was taught to me was principles based. So it wasn't just I have a shoulder here of 10 techniques for the shoulder. It was here is all of anatomy. Now, here's how physiology works. Now, go figure out how it's connected. How can that pain be coming from upwards, downwards, to the right, to the left? What are all the pieces? How can we sort out this person? And I think I really look at my kids the same way. It's not just what is this behavior, but it's where's the behavior coming from? What's there? What is my goal for you as a human, right? Not how do I get you to listen to me, which sometimes I also just need, um, but how do I really support you in learning and growing? So that's like one way, and I think vice versa. Being a mother has affected me as an osteopath because you just learn compassion as a mother, and you learn that things take time and that sometimes a kid just is in the stage of tantrums and they're going to outgrow it and you just have to keep plugging away and repeating the
Mm.
same things over and over again. And in the same way, bodies, I love to see bodies that heal quickly, and we have to understand that bodies have their own pace and their own trajectory, and sometimes it takes time and sometimes it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over, but eventually that seed that you sprout in that body will bud, and you'll see fruit from that, from those treatments.
I love that you're emphasizing how, we all have this really unique journey and the body is an expression of that. And so there's not a good or a bad.
Right.
And it strikes me that the cataclysmic shifts that us women go through as we learn about motherhood is kind of similar to the rock my world that comes with menopause. I mean, everything has to change, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I look at it kind of like a butterfly. You have this caterpillar, and it is an entity into itself. It's a whole creature, that caterpillar, but it's not. It's in its complete form. And motherhood and this like you know growing up and becoming not just the little baby woman, a mommy, but but going through menopause and going through a whole other trajectory and stage of life. You have like these crazy hormones, and also like your perspective is shifting on things and you're seeing things different and you have more wisdom and more maturity, and that can feel very destructive and it can feel very internally like it could destroy you in a certain sense. And I think that's on purpose, that we change, and this the butterfly emerges not as a caterpillar with wings. It emerges as a whole new creature. And I think as mothers and as more senior women, we also emerge in the same way, as with totally different perspectives and as a much more well-rounded person.
Yeah, you said the
And
authentic person. Sometimes I feel like I'm just growing into my voice.
yeah,
Shira, I know you're tuning in more and more to your own intuition when working with patients. Can you share how that feels for you? Like what sort of outcomes do you see when you welcome that sort of spiritual awareness into your work?
yeah. So I see intuition and spirituality as a little bit as separate. There is an intuition that I think as an osteopath, it's been 8 years that I've had my hands on bodies, including school and practice. And you start to trust that, yes, these are all the things I could do, but this is where I feel like this person is going, and I'm just going to go with it. So you're applying the principles of osteopathy, but with that intuitive sense of, I think this is my best bet. We're going to follow this channel. If it doesn't work, I have the 10 other ways I could think, paths I could think down. So for me, what that looks like is just being available to the patient, really quieting my own inner voice and trying to listen. What does this patient need right now? What does this body need? Sometimes I'll get like a clarity that says, this doesn't feel like an injury, or this feels like something old. This feels like it's not letting go and it's not doing what I want it to do. I was holding someone's neck the other day and it just wasn't releasing. And I had worked on the shoulders and I had worked on the spine and I had worked to here and I had worked there and it wasn't letting go. So I just asked them, like, what are you holding here? What emotions are you holding in your neck? Which is not something I would typically ask. And she knew what it was. And she said, I'm holding this there. And I said, what would you need to do to release that? And she told me what she would need to do. And I said, I want you to just really take a minute and visualize that. And as I'm holding her neck, like I just felt it go. Um, so I think when I am more open to that intuitive piece, it's just you're guided in certain directions, and that's it's a really cool thing. Sometimes people will even have an emotional release at the same time. Um, Sometimes they know what it's about. Sometimes they don't even know what it's about. They just you know feel like they need to cry and let things go, and blessed to have that safe space for them. And
So you have to kind of really do your own personal work, Shira, so that you can be really, like you said, truly available to your patient.
yeah, definitely. But I feel like that's me. Like I just feel like my own journey and my own, the way I was made and the way my own life experiences have just kind of allowed me to be that. I don't want to say naturally because I think we all have to work on things, but more naturally, I think. I have a very non-judgmental personality. I'm able to just hold things for people. So I think it kind of helps with that.
And as you come into your own, Shira, because you're a couple decades younger than me, how are you finding your voice for spiritual growth?
Yes. So I think it was very hard to find that voice when I had my kids. I was a very spiritual person when I was a teenager, and I had kids pretty young. So I think that really did, like we were talking before, it did rock my world, especially spiritually. And I think now that I have more space, I have been giving myself the opportunity to just have quiet. And I think that sometimes spirituality is just uncovering your own self and seeing who am I really, because the greatest gift that we have to give to the world is really ourselves, right? Some of us are blessed to have people we love and some of us are alone, and we really are our own gift to the world. um, and yeah, so connecting with myself, and then I think when we connect with ourselves, then we are available to connect with other people and to, I mean, I connect to God or whatever people connect to, higher being. When we are our most authentic self, I think that is like the greatest spiritual ascension that we can have.
Well, wise words from one so young. When we hit our 50s and our 60s, a lot of us have been conforming all these years, and we're just so used to making everyone else happy or being people pleasers that spiritual longing within us is really gone unanswered for so many decades, and we're numbing out. We're drinking too much wine, we're shopping too much, we're eating too much chocolate, we're obsessively planning travel or renovations.
Sounds
Um,
nice.
well, it's pleasurable, but it's taking us away. It's distracting us from true joy. And I think that's what you're talking about, building that time for quiet, getting to know yourself, kind of being your own best friend. It's something I've been really learning in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I just want to wind back to your day job for a minute, Shira. This has been amazing. Um, with the drop in hormones that midlife women experience comes a lot of injuries and joint pain. And this is real. It's not just in our heads. So no one should tell us it's not real, like you were telling us before.
Right.
And I don't like hearing you're just getting old, deal with it, because that's what a lot of clients have been told. And I know that there's tons of that I can offer from the yoga world to keep people mobile and graceful. But Shira, there's lots that you can do as an osteopath that complements what yoga brings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, the greatest compliment between osteopathy and yoga is it's your job to keep the body moving as a whole, right? That's the daily practice. Whereas for me, when you're generally moving as a whole, there'll still be areas that you don't have proper leverage to get into. And that's my job. My job is when you're taking care of your body like you are, You come to me and I say, these ribs aren't moving. Ba, 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 very gently. Let's make those ribs move. Let's get your sacrum moving. Let's make sure the pelvis is nice and aligned. But I don't have to work as hard when you're doing the daily alignment. And when I do my alignment for you, then you'll see that you have so much more range of motion. Or I'm sure you find with yourself and with others, sometimes the left side moves more, sometimes the right side moves more. We're uneven. So, and sometimes that's just us, and that's okay. I have scoliosis, I'll always be uneven. That's okay. But the main thing is that when things are moving better and feeling better, you can really continue that practice, that daily practice, and keep opening yourself up. And I find, I want to say 100% of the time, I feel like you can never say 100% of the time, but almost 100% of the time, my patients that exercise, my patients that move, it's a world of a difference how they age and versus how my patients that don't move. And it doesn't matter body size, it really, really is. Are you moving? Are you moving regularly? And are you moving in a way that feels good to you? It makes a huge difference.
Well, thank you for that shout out, because I always say movement is your medicine. So
Yeah.
Shira, we will put your website in the show notes so people can contact you. Where are you physically practicing from right now? Where's your
I'm in
location?
Thornhill in the GTA.
In the GTA. Okay, wonderful. Because I know, you certainly have a lot of population to draw from, but you also have some plans. We won't say anything today, but also have some plans to reach out to a digital audience. So you'll want to make sure you visit Shira's website and just keep abreast of these lovely things. So thank you so much for sharing today, Shira. It's been an honor to connect with a kindred spirit, and we'll have to check in with each other soon. Maybe you can come back and do another episode to see where your heart-centered dreams are incubating.
Thank you. And Cheryl, thank you. It's been really lovely to speak to you. Okay, everyone listening, you guys are all so blessed to have Cheryl. Keep on listening. This is so nice. Thank you so much for all of the
Namaste.
work you're doing.
Namaste.
Namaste.
In the meantime, before we have Shira back, I will put a link, as I said, in the show notes for Shira's contact information. I'll also put a link to a joint freeing series video that's on my website. This is a program of simple movement. It can be done standing, using a chair. There's another version where you're even laying down in bed. So it's a great way at home to build more mobility, freedom of movement. And like Shira was saying, so when you go to see her, you've already done your homework, at least until you can get to your friendly local